Welcome back to Difference Makers here on BEK TV Plus. I'm your host, Jay Fettig, and today we welcome back our good friend and PBA legend, Mr. Bob Learn Jr., Mr. 300 as they say. Hi, Bob.
Hey Jay, how are you?
I couldn't be any better. And how about you?
Well, should I fall short of that? This is
Well,
this is what?
again, it's 12:30. You know where Bob is. So 12:30 in the morning. So we appreciate you staying up late. I mean, you're in Dubai, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So
This is where I
Bob
live right now.
Bob is the UAE national coach. So we're very honored to have you on the show. So anyway, today, Bob, we're going to talk further. You know, we're still trying to figure out, and I think we're getting closer. I don't want to say we'll ever get there, but I think we're getting a better understanding of what separates the champions from the legends. And one thing we've noticed is it doesn't happen in 1 year or 2 years. Those are, good seasons, but they don't become a legend. And legends take time. That's one of the things we're finding. So with that, I don't know if it's a stroke of good luck or good fortune, but your physical game has to stand the test of time. What have you done over the years to keep your body in shape?
Well, a lot of different things, but mostly I love doing push-ups, and I did perfect push-ups, 150 a day, up until 5 years ago. Then I cut back because I have a little arthritis in the wrist. Beyond that, of course, keeping my legs strong, working out with my legs, and today's game is a lot to do with legs.
So, what is are there physical traits, whether it be in the game or their body? What are the physical traits that make you the best? I mean, what are some of the things that people have in common that are the best?
Well, I mean, it really depends on what area you're from. But in today's game, it's obviously about power. So hand speed is really important to create rev rate. And you'll see some of the players that are part of our group that you've been interviewing, they still possess power at a later age. And so a lot of that is just, you know, the ability to be that quick at the bottom. Um, Besides that, of course, it's being in shape to be able to do it. But if you see the best players from yesteryear that are still able to compete, they stayed in shape. They kept themselves strong, and I do really feel like I can bowl almost like I did 30 years ago. It's very close considering what age I'm at, and but I was a little bit ahead of my time, as well as Amleto and a few other power players really started ahead of the game and kind of worked into what became the game. And so that helps a lot with longevity.
So you say, keeping your hands quick at the bottom. Is that something a person can, I guess, work on, or what are some drills if it is something that they can work on, or is that just a God-given thing?
Well, it a lot to do with God, yes. Um, you know, you ever hear about the twitch? People just are quicker and just how they respond. You look at most most power players, they do everything fast. They're just wired like that, right? You don't have people that are real slow and methodical and everything they do become big power players. There are exceptions to every rule, but for the most part, it's just how you're built. I always had good reaction time, and still do. And I think it was a big part of it. It was there. I know when I first started doing it, people were like, "What are you doing? Like, you won't last 5 years if you keep doing what you're doing." And and so I guess they didn't understand exactly how I was doing it. It looked effortful, certainly from being in a position where I held the ball down. But for me, it didn't feel like weight, and it was very relaxed. And I really just got the ball so low that I had to get my feet moving. As you can tell, I have very fast feet. And that really is today's game. No matter what rev rate you have players that are building momentum to the line, and they're creating a lot of power through their legs and hips. You look at today's top player right now, you like got EJ, one-hander, going against all the two-handers. But if you look at how much power he generates through his hips and through his legs, he makes it look effortless, and you see fluidity. And this is the key. You look at the best players, they look fluid because they're efficient in what they're doing.
Yeah, you know, we'll come back to that in the third segment with EJ and the others, but the one thing you've noticed, especially with EJ, is his footwork is absolutely perfect. I mean, and that I would imagine comes again, you know, naturally, but also through hours and hours of relentless work. And at the foul line, you can see EJ's kind of standing up through release. And again, that's where the power comes from, right? From the legs. So
Yeah,
yeah,
leverage. Yeah. And
yeah,
and you know what? You have that much torque, that much going on at the bottom, coming out of it as you've already let go of the ball, preserving, the stress and the torque on your knee. That's okay. If it's during your shot, it's another thing. But you see him coming up as the ball's off his hand. So it just looks like he's standing up at the line, but he's in a really great position at the point of release.
yeah. It's almost like he doesn't have where back in the day you had Marshall Homan who had a long, long slide. You know, EJ and others obviously don't necessarily have that. You know, there is some slide, but it's, you know, if they had too long of a slide, they're not going to be able to come up, you know, at the bottom. You know, so I mean, have you seen that in today's game as well? Do you notice that?
Well, if you see those guys that can generate 500 to 600 RPMs, you don't see them with an extremely long slide. They just get in a better position to be able to generate more power. Uh, so what Marshall Ullman did, I mean, he was the modern game before anybody, but he was so nice and long, and he had great rev rate for the day, but pales in comparison to what the guys are doing now.
Yeah, yeah. So stay with us. We're going to take a quick break and hear from our sponsors. When we come back, we're going to talk about how Bob has avoided injuries through all these years. So stay tuned. We'll be right back.
At Gateway Building Systems, we provide unmatched service to all of our customers. Butler Builder understands this. We combine creative design capabilities with superior workmanship to deliver optimal building solutions. Our team provides insight that takes you from the ground up to build your future. Gateway Building Systems and Butler Buildings are designed for strength, durability, and longevity. We are here to build your project and maintain it for the next generation.
Experience the homegrown goodness of Cass Clay Country, where life is made sweeter and healthier. For over 85 years, we've been crafting delicious dairy products from local farms for local families. Our recipes only use the freshest ingredients, from milk and butter to ice cream, sour cream, and cottage cheese. You can rely on us for superior quality and taste that your parents and grandparents will even recognize. It's a difference you can taste. Cass Clay, homegrown, pure goodness.
Welcome back to more Difference Makers here on BEK TV Plus. I'm your host, Jay Fettig, and we continue to be joined by Mr. 300, Bob Learn. So, Bob, you know, as we said before, that legends take time to become legends. It's not a 1 or 2 year thing. That's a champion, and they're just as good. But to make that happen means that you have to avoid injury, or at least major injury. And you were able to do that with the exception maybe of something, but it was outside bowling, right? I mean, tell us how that happened.
Yeah, so throughout my career when I was competing on tour, as much as I did with the ball, I never had any pain. And so, that was a blessing that many people had, were generating power and fell to injury. So, but I felt like I was pretty strong, just in general. And so again, the weight didn't feel like very much in my hand. So it wasn't that much, I guess, wear on my wrist and whatnot. But that all changed when I was just turned 50. I was working at Turbo, living in Michigan, and a tree fell in my backyard when I was at work. And I came back, and we were only about a week from trying the PBA 50 tour. And I had someone come in and bid out what it would take to remove the tree. And it was a little bit more than I really wanted to pay. So I decided, well, I'll just do this myself. So I went through multiple chains to cut down the sycamore, very dense tree. They generally don't fall. This happened to be one that had died off. But it was a big tree, stood really tall. And I don't know if it was just the vibration of going through all those cuts, but because it was such a big tree, I had to make thin cuts and a lot of them. Or just picking up those pieces that were probably 2 to 250 a piece and throwing them in the back of a vehicle and putting them in and then dumping them. I don't know, but if something at 30 wouldn't have bothered me, but it started bothering my wrist. And as it turns out, eventually it turned into arthritis. So I have a little bit of that. I can bowl with it. It's nothing that I know it's painful at times, but still everything else, my legs, everything else feel great.
So it's a manageable pain right now. I mean, it's not a career ending or anything.
No, at first, you have pain, so you're thinking, well, do I have an injury? And I know it's arthritic, and so it is what it is. But you have better days than others, and so the good days, of course, you can feel like you're 30, and then the next day you feel like you're closer to the age that you are. So it does change, and it's unpredictable. But no, it's not. If it's not an injury, you just work through it, and you just have to deal with the pain, which is no problem.
So people like myself that are in our 50s, what are I guess some points of advice physically that you would give to us? I mean, I bowl a lot and maybe more than I should, but what advice would you give us?
Well, be consistent. A lot of people will go hot and cold and come back and try to do too much, but just consistently doing it. It's uh, just like walking every day. It doesn't take as much toll on your body. I feel if you just do it, consistently. I am 63 in a couple weeks, so I feel like that's been really good to longevity. The fact that I was consistently practicing and practicing a lot at times. And, I could still feel like I could probably bowl 15, 20 games with really not even getting tired. So it's just something you condition yourself to. And if you keep doing it, I don't think it's much of a problem as if you stop and then try to come back.
How do you feel about 14 versus 15-pound balls?
Well, I did try 14 when I first had wrist pain, and it's just too light. My hand's too quick, and I can manipulate the ball too much. And that's the problem with having a ball that's too light, or is that you get to redirect it. You can redirect it so easy. You need to have enough weight to where it actually directs what you're doing a little bit more than you directed it. So 14 for me was no bueno. Couldn't do it.
Okay. So for younger bowlers that are in their 30s coming on 40s, for those of us who that's in the rearview mirror, what advice would you give them? Again, focusing on the physical game and their body.
Well, fitness does matter. In today's game, especially with all the two-handers, core strength is especially important. The positions they get in and how much they have to use their upper body more so than what we see with one-handed bowling. They have to have a strong core and of course strong legs to go with that. And that's something that when you're young, you're not really thinking about. You do build those muscles, but if you're not continually trying to build as you get older, as you start losing some of that, then they'll catch up to you. And Belmo is really the test. He's the first, more or less, first of his kind. We had other players that had tried that two-handed Chuck Landy back in the 80s, but not the power player that Belmo and two-handers of today is. And, he's kind of gotten into fitness. He's certainly got, you can see where he lost weight. I'm sure he put on muscle to be able to create longevity. And, he knew better. He's like, you know what? These kids are stronger, they're younger. And if I want to compete with them, I need to bring it up a notch. So you see Bill O'Neill, guys that have been out for a long time, they work out, they stay in shape. And, it's what leads to their longevity. You can't just show up and hope it works out. There are a few people that have gotten away with that for quite a while, but it had caught up to them.
Yeah, and as much as strengthening is kind of seen as a chore, it's a necessity, and then flexibility as well. I mean, you can't just strengthen. You got to be flexible. That's going to prevent a lot of injury too moving forward. So stay with us, folks. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to hear more from the great Mr. Bob Learn.
Relationships founded on trust. That's how Lux Wealth Advisors was established, and it continues to be paramount in everything we do. Our professionals are here to make building wealth simple and straightforward for anyone. Whether you're just starting out, nearing retirement, or you're someplace in between, we'll take the time to accurately assess your current financial state, then design a tailored plan to help you achieve your long-term goals. Lux Wealth Advisors, the right answers for financial independence.
Mandan Sporting Goods' new location means new inventory and even greater commitment to supporting your Second Amendment rights, which reads, a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Whether you're wanting personal defense weapons, collectibles, or simply the area's largest selection of ammo, reloading supplies, and new line of fishing equipment, the team at Mandan Sporting Goods will help you find what you need. 206 4th Avenue Northwest.
Welcome back to more Difference Makers here on BEK TV Plus. I'm your host, Jay Fettig, and we continue again to be joined by Bob Learn, Mr. 300. Bob, again, when we left off before, we started kind of getting into, we finished talking about the physical game, but I want to get your take now going back in time, and how did you adapt your physical game to the changing technologies? So, take us back to the, through that whole process.
Well, my first year on tour, we were still using only plastic and rubber. So we're going back a few years. Then urethane came in, and there wasn't much change with urethane as far as how you created rev rate. Nothing really changed dramatically until reactive came out. It was so responsive that instead of being able to hit up on the ball and create earlier reaction, you had to stay smoother and get the ball to the front and to be able to control the back end. So if you hit up on it, then you would have very inconsistent break point. So there was a big change, 92, 93. But prior to that, rubber got phased out. Plastic was still widely used. But the volumes that we were bowling on were much lower. And it wasn't until urethane and stronger urethanes came out that they started creating a little bit more volume. And certainly once we got to reactive, we started seeing from that point on, volumes have just been climbing every year. If you look at just the last couple of years, they had a few patterns that might put 30 mils out. And now you see a lot of patterns that exceed 30 mils. It's kind of almost becoming the norm. So when you have classifications of what's low, medium, and high volume, I mean, it went from maybe 26 mils would be high volume, and today that's medium. It's just you don't see anything really in the 21, 22 mils like you used to see a lot of in 90s and 2000s. That's very low, but it just won't hold up to today's game. People throw it, and the bowling balls that we're throwing, it just can't hold up for the block. We used to bowl, start in the morning, one application of oil, and we would bowl throughout the day. And then they went to, well, we're gonna, strip and re-oil every other squad. Then it was every squad, just to try to keep up with the transition in today's game with everything that's at stake. So the game has evolved a lot. It's a little trickier, I think, today at times, because they're trying so hard to make them tough enough before the lanes kind of open up, that they actually get really, really tricky down lane. And so speed sensitivity is higher. It's more important than ever.
I always say that it's become a bit of an arms race. That the balls have become so good that they had to counter that, to make it at least somewhat challenging. They had to counter it, with tougher oil, patterns, and for, the house bowlers that may not quite understand that, and I'll take a minute to explain, and correct me, Bob, where I need to be corrected. But so a typical house pattern is going to have 22 to 24 mils, right, of oil, and players have wide open shot. They can throw it outside, miss inside, and it'll hold. And now a reactive ball acts a bit like a sponge, right? It's going to soak that oil up. Whereas in the days where urethane was being used, and plastic and rubber, it actually just moved it around. It didn't soak it up. It either pushed it down or pushed it around. So, I mean, tell us as a bowler, I mean, first of all, am I correct on that?
Yeah, so when you had plastic and urethane, the absorption rate was nil. And so the oil would stay on the ball, and it would transfer more oil to the back end of the lane. So we'd have a lot more transition. The lanes would feel like they held up longer because of that. And you were able to get away with, oiling once a day. But then we had reactive come out, and the absorption rate is different on different cover stocks. But yes, it absolutely absorbs, especially the new bowl ball. When you first get it, it will absorb oil rather quickly, and it slows down over time. But that changes the lane so quickly because it takes oil off, absorbs it, doesn't redistribute it on the next shot. It's just been a never-ending battle. Like you said, they keep adjusting for the style of play and the bowling balls that we're using. When the ball started flaring, things changed dramatically. When you had through the 90s, you had very little flare, if any, in the early 90s. I'm sorry, 80s. And so when the ball doesn't flare, it's oil over oil, one line. And then when the course started creating flare, well, then of course it was seeking a different part of the cover stock, allowing for potential for more hook, and it took more oil off the lane. And it's just, now you have balls that they flare so much. When we talk about differentials, intermediate differentials, they're so dynamic, the bowl balls. They do so much to the lane, and that's why they're really, they rarely have, two squads without re-oil.
So when you say that when you went to reactive and away from urethane, where with urethane you wanted to focus, like you said, coming up the back of the ball, when reactive, are you saying then that you had to get your hand more around the ball to get access rotation so it would get through the heads a little bit better? Is that what you're saying?
No, actually, We were more up the back of it with urethane because it would get the ball to read the lane and create, hook. When you got to reactive, the problem was that, the ball would go to the front. It was how much it responded on the back end. It would go sideways. And so if you hit up on it, you got the ball kind of checking and changing direction a little more inconsistently. So getting the ball into the lane cleanly and letting that get to the spot and roll off the spot versus getting to the back end and wanting to go dead sideways obviously would allow you to control the pocket much better and get a much cleaner read of the lanes. When Excalibur first came out, and then of course every company came out with a reactive when they figured it out. Everyone's like, what is going on? Like, we never saw balls going sideways. And so what ended up happening is people that were straighter players got to see a lot more ball reaction they ever saw. But the power players actually had to try to figure out, how do we kind of control this a little bit? It's too much. And so in today's cores and stuff, you can drill these balls. The cores are a lot more controllable than what we had at first. At first, they didn't know, really how to control it. They started devising the makeup of the cover stock. They worked with particle, which initially smoothed things out, and some of them went too far with like a tombstone. That ball just hooked and stopped. But they were trying to control it with particles. They were trying to figure out how they can create more of a diverse range with it. And today, they have it down to a science. They're so good in the bowling balls that are coming out. I know the brands of Brunswick are, gosh, they keep coming out with bowling balls. I'm like, there's so many good ones you just came out with. It's hard to believe you have to replace them, but that's the market. People are looking for the next best thing. And the thing is, there's such a range that they can come out with. There's so many great balls that they can make today because they have an understanding to it.
Yeah.
Back in the 90s, we had good balls and balls that weren't so good.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Bob, we again want to thank you for your time. I know it's late where you're at. We're going to come back again for you with our third episode, again coming up here, where we're going to talk about the mental part of the game. So, folks, that's going to conclude today's episode of Difference Makers. I'll be right back after these messages.
Hi, I'm Katie with First Community Credit Union, and we're here with Angry Beaver Tree Services in Devil's Lake. What do you love about FCCU?
I would say it's an organization that's willing to go above and beyond to take care of the community needs. People are very friendly to work with, and they're always willing to go the extra mile to ensure that what I need is being taken care of. I love the friendly people, and like I said, I can walk in there and talk about getting a loan, and they're always willing to sit down and work with you right away. The process is fast, people are friendly, and it just doesn't get any better than that.
Are you looking for something special or one of a kind? At Bassett Motors, we can help you find exactly what you want.
Come on in and experience how small town hospitality and personal service can make car buying a pleasure.
We know interest rates are important to you. We have multiple lenders to negotiate your lowest payment.
Visit us on Highway 281 in Carrington, North Dakota, and online at BassettMotors.com. Bassett Motors, where our customers send their friends.
Welcome to the world of exceptional care and well-being. At Chubby Health, we believe in nurturing your body and mind and maximizing your potential. Trust our dedicated chiropractic team and the expertise of our skilled physical therapist. Embrace the future of rehab with stem wave therapy. Restore your body's natural energy flow with acupuncture and discover the power of nutrition with our expert doctors. And don't forget our specialized prenatal and pediatric care services. Put your health in good hands with Chubby Health.
At Gateway Building Systems, we provide unmatched service to all of our customers. Butler Builder understands this. We combine creative design capabilities with superior workmanship to deliver optimal building solutions. Our team provides insight that takes you from the ground up to build your future. Gateway Building Systems and Butler Buildings are designed for strength, durability, and longevity. We are here to build your project and maintain it for the next generation.
Well, that's going to wrap up today's episode of Difference Makers. Again, I want to thank Bob Learn for taking his time. Next week, we're going to focus on the mental part of the game. And I want to be sure to thank our sponsors. I want to thank Brunswick and Hammer. I want to thank Farmers Union Insurance, Turbo, the X League, and Bull for Life Foundation. We'll see you next time.